next Sunday. And also, not just that, she will be still with us through July, but she'll be taking vacation that month. So this will probably be the last Sunday we'll get to spend some time with her next week. So I'll mention that again toward the end of service. Also this morning, we welcome Julie Berman, Faith Formation Director. Bob Ertman, who's the worship leader, will be doing some readings for us. And we also thank Pat Flaherty for sharing the plate, his presentation that is forthcoming. And Rob Day has prepared choir music, as well as Joshua Long, who will be offering us announcements. And so now let us bring our attention to our service and prepare our hearts and minds with words by Cherie Yoga. And we'll unmute Bob Ertman. Bob, you can unmute yourself.
It's enough to be and breathe, to feel the touch of wind on the skin. It's enough to take the day as it comes. It's enough to be buffeted by the winds of change and not blown over. I and you and all of us, more than enough.
Now enjoy the choir singing our opening hymn, number 108. We'll make sure that we're optimized. Now we continue. And now Julie will share a Wonder Box with us this morning. Julie.
I had to unmute myself on a different computer. I'm sorry. Thanks for waiting. So this morning we have our Wonder Box, and we're going to ask 3 questions, 3 wise questions. So I'm going to tell you a story this morning. There was this wonderful king. He was a powerful king that lived in a palace and ruled over this entire country. And he had been king for a while, but he was wondering 3 really important questions. He wondered, how do I know when it's time to do something as king? And number 2, who should I listen to or ignore? And the third question was, what should I do? And so he walked around, and the king looks very much like my husband, a park ranger. He walked around in his entire country, and he asked different people. He asked the group of warriors. He said, what should I do? Who should I listen to? When should I do it? And the warrior said, you should always fight, and you should listen to us. And then he went to the quilt makers, and he said, who should I be listening to? And they said, you should be quilting. So he heard from all of these people, and then it just didn't feel right to his heart. So he heard about this wise person out in the woods, and she wears a black cape. And she lives out, but she's very, very wise. So many people encouraged him to go find her and ask her these questions that he needed the answers to. And when he met her, he said, excuse me, I've heard that you're very wise. I have 3 questions for you. When is the time to do something? Who should I listen to or ignore? And what exactly should I be doing? And she quietly went back to gardening. And he noticed that it looked like she needed help. So he began to garden next to her. And then later that day, a wounded person arrived on her horse. And the person had a very injured side and looked like she was in a lot of pain. So the king went over to her and he said, can I please help you? You look like you're in pain. And she said, yes, I need that. I've been riding for a long time. And so he took her inside, he cleaned and bandaged her wounds. And he asked the wise person if he could stay the night to make sure that she rested and healed well and okay. And so this wounded person was all cleaned up and taken care of, and they were resting well. And the king stayed the night, and then the next person, this wounded person, was feeling better enough, well enough to ride off on her horse, and she did. And then finally the king looked again at this wise person who lives alone in the woods and said, okay, I've been here for 2 days now, and I really want you to answer my questions. When is the time to do something? How do I know as king? Who should I listen to or ignore? And what is it that I do? What's right? And the wise person said, you already know this. The answer is, the time is now. The answer to your second question is, you should listen to who is with you, whether it be your family members, your neighbors, yourself, whoever you are around in that moment. And the third answer is, you should do kindness and help others and be of service. And you've done those. You helped me weed my garden. You helped the injured traveler. And the king felt like this was the right answers to his questions. And I just want to encourage all of us that at this time, we're doing the right things. We're doing, church from our homes to keep our communities safe. And we're listening to our family members and our neighbors, and we're engaging that with them. And the right time is now. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. As we prepare our hearts and minds for this moment, for passages, transitions, homecomings, joys and sorrows, I invite you to write in the chat. And I'm going to ask Julie and Lika to read those off since I'm handling things from this end. To write into the chat your passage, homecoming, or transition. I'd also like to lift up Ray Watkins, who had a procedure this week, and we hope he's okay. I will be checking in on him. Carol Shanker, who is on hospice care, and Reverend Christina Leon Tracy, who shared on Facebook that she had a minor case of COVID, she says. So let's keep them in our thoughts and prayers. And please write your thoughts now and contemplate these words as you write your joys and sorrows. Don't meditate to fix yourself, to improve yourself, to redeem yourself. Rather, do it as an act of love, of deep, warm friendship to yourself. In this way, there is no longer any need for the subtle aggression of self-improvement, for the endless guilt of not doing enough. It offers the possibility of an end to the ceaseless round of trying so hard that it wraps so many people's lives in a knot. And now, Lika and Julie, if you would like to share what you have heard in the chat. Some of.
Jamie and Carrie will get to see one. I'm not sure whose dad that is, but their 84-year-old dad today for the first time in many weeks. Lee lifts up, may Catherine survive her heart surgery. The Seals are celebrating their anniversary, and our thoughts and prayers and condolences and love are with you on the loss of your mother 2 months ago.
Beverly Cohen Champagne says, Bob and I are back at our home in Albany, New York. We already miss our UCA friends. We will stay connected on Zoom, from Bev and Bob. Jody says, I'd like to send love to my friend who owns a store in the boardwalk of Ocean City and sheltered several young kids that were scared during the large fight that broke out recently. They were affected by the tear gas and anxiety of the bad actions by a few.
Don's brother is having a cardiac procedure this week, and he asks that we keep his brother in our thoughts. Lauren, welcome. It's so good to have you with us here today. This is Lauren's first time, and Lauren's son finishes kindergarten this week, and they're looking for a good way to celebrate that passage. And there are so many milestones happening in this time that are being celebrated in so many different ways and unusual and beautiful ways. Liz Yoder is thinking of neighbors.
Liz Yoder shares that. Go ahead, Lika.
Go ahead, Julie.
She's thinking of her neighbors who decided to rehome their dog after a biting incident. Her heart goes out to them. Tracy said, Carol Schrenker, blessings and prayers. She's a giver. My mother, Phyllis Carson, passed away a year ago today. She said a wonderful example for her large family of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren who she left behind. We miss her dearly. From Roy Carson.
Congratulations to Ellen Burkhoff and Peter, who celebrated their 44th wedding anniversary this week. And we remember Jasmine Coles, a friend of Joy Howard. And Joy says that Jasmine passed away at 38, technically from cardiac arrest, kidney failure, and brain damage, but really because she couldn't, I believe couldn't exist in her own skin peacefully in this world.
Heather Millar shares her friend Lisa had a procedure this week. She's thankfully recovering. Randy and Mickey Goldberg missing their mom. June 7th was her 93rd birthday. She died last year on June 10th. Also,
Thank you for all of them. Go ahead, Julie.
we're definitely holding Josh Long and his family in our prayers. His grandmother passed away at 92 this week.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with that vulnerability, which is what it will take to help us to heal in life. So we pause a moment now just to sit with what we've heard, to smile and to sigh. In this beautiful and awful dance of life. Spirit, we give thanks for this technology that gives us the opportunity to hear from one another and to see one another in these strange days. I once again ask that you give us courage to keep on keeping on. We thank you for the beautiful weather to remind us that life is good. And we're also reminded as we look at the news and we march and we rally that life is bad for so many. And so as much as we can be grateful for what we have, we are not free. None of us are free until all of us are free. To help us to do what needs to be done in small and great ways. To help to bring about your kingdom, beloved community on this earth. But it's possible if we believe it possible. To give us the strength to endure and the patience to believe. Amen. Please enjoy this tune. One of my favorites, William Blake's words, beautiful art by fairfringe.com. And it's one of my favorite hymns during the Holocaust, at the Holocaust Museum when they, I don't know if you all remember back when someone went in there with a gun. I went out and they interviewed me about it, and I quoted this poem. The words are quite appropriate even today. Enjoy this hymn number 127. Lika is going to help us with this reading this morning.
Unless we are very, very careful, we doom each other by holding on to images of one another based on preconceptions that are in turn based on indifference to what is other than ourselves. This indifference can be, in its extreme, a form of murder, and seems to me a rather common phenomenon. We claim autonomy for ourselves and forget that in doing so, we can fall into the tyranny of defining other people as we would like them to be. By focusing on what we choose to acknowledge in them, we impose an insidious control on them. I notice that I have to pay careful attention in order to listen to others with an openness that allows them to be as they are or as they think themselves to be. The shutters of my mind habitually flip open and click shut, and these little snaps form into patterns I arrange for myself. The opposite of this inattention is love, is the honoring of others in a way that grants them the grace of their own autonomy and enjoys mutual and allows for mutual discovery.
Thank you, Lika. This morning, I want to say to you that it's been a heck of a week. And this week has started, last week started with a bang. I hope next week is slower. We saw the NFL apologizing. Black Lives Matter, can see it from space, planted on the street in DC, Hollywood too, from what I understand. NASCAR bans Confederate flags. Wow. Amazon puts out a statement in support of Black Lives Matter. The list of endorsements grow and donations for Black Lives Matter. I mean, just a year ago or more, people were saying that Black Lives Matter was a part of a terrorist organization. It's quite hard to believe where the world is today. It does seem that the winds of change are moving and stirring. The pandemic has released a powerful force that will not be contained. But, there's always a but, there are negative forces that push back. And that's life, progress, and regress. And the current administration is now discriminating against our trans brothers and sisters, rolling back healthcare protections. And I particularly draw your attention to the Black trans community, who are doubly victimized by this and other abuses. So the struggle continues. But today, this is different. We can all admit that. We've never seen something that impacted the entire world. It appears to be a zeitgeist, a spirit that seems to be calling us to evolve. So we have to keep pressing on toward that mark with all due speed. What is that mark? The mark is freedom and justice for all living human beings. The mark means that we create a sharing culture, a culture based on collaboration and mutual understanding instead of fear and authoritarianism. Fear is a powerful motivator. Associate professor at the University of Pittsburgh, Margie Kerr, she did a series of lectures on the science of fear. She was talking about the Thomas theorem, which states that which is believed to be true carries real consequences. That which is believed to be true carries real consequences. Our perceptions create our reality. And so what is the work? It's not just changing hearts, but it's changing perceptions and perspectives. As Sophia Lyon-Fahs said so well, it matters what we believe. It matters how we think. because thoughts become things. It matters what we do. Our actions cause reactions. And that's why when we see the evolution of policing in this country, the question must be asked, who is protect and serve really meant for? Who is protect and serve really meant for? And if we're honest, it's there for the mostly white people instead of people of color. And why is that? What are people needing to be protected from? See, we have to get behind the words in those statements, those subtle acts of exclusion that go unchecked. The science of fear, false evidence appearing real, is harnessed, used as a vehicle to move people to do mostly improper things. We're so manipulated as a people. We've been programmed to believe that we must be afraid to survive, that innate primal fear is used against us by powerful people and corporations sometimes, and governments, to create uncertainty and tension. In that lecture I was referring to, Professor Kerr said that the human threat response takes up a lot of brain energy. Imagine if you are always on alert, what this does to the mind and body. Of course, it's trauma, but you're using all of your mental force just to survive. How can you ever have the space to grow your soul? So we have a lot of work to do to reconcile America's original sin, because that's what this is all about, slavery. And some of us are taking the trip that I'm leading with my wife, Reverend Rebecca from the Rockville Church. We're going to Jamestown to pray on those grounds where the original slaves came to America. It may not be in that exact spot, but we're going to pray and chant and try to reconcile that which is almost unreconcilable. And you're welcome to join us. You know, the one thing about fear is that it's seductive, because we have within us this attraction repulsion mechanism. That's one of the things that the lecture is about. We are to fearful things, fearful events, fearful happenings. Like, you know, when you're driving in your car and you see an accident and now there's a traffic jam because everybody wants to look over and see what happened. And you get mad because everybody's looking over, and then when it's your turn, you do the same thing. And you know what we're thinking? Is anyone hurt? Is anyone dead? Do I know the person? We look. It's almost irresistible. And that's why fear-based messaging is used to manipulate us. Think about all those alarm system companies. We're told all the time how safe we aren't. And sure, there are dangers lurking. Of course there are, but it's exaggerated. People trying to manipulate us to think that other people are threats. Generally, white people trying to manipulate us to think that people of color are threats. I've lived among the poor and I've lived among the well-off, and people, as my dad said, people are people. Or they try to sell us insurance to tell us about an act of God. And so we all invest in that. We have to, I guess. But we live and spend so much of our time in fear. We use so much of our energy up in fear-based thinking. Sometimes I just have to say, when I get a bad thought, cancel it out. Get it out of my brain. Get this toxicity out. There's a part of me that thinks, how do I know that I'm not creating it by obsessing over it? So sometimes we have to take a break from all the noise. We have to detach. And I'm planning to do that in July. Practice learning how to be effectively attached while simultaneously being detached. It's good to look back, but not too much. Sometimes looking back can be dangerous. You know, we're told to keep our eyes on the road ahead. Yeah, we're supposed to get a glimpse when we drive of what's beside us, what's behind us, but we need to stay focused on what's ahead of us. And sometimes we look back so long that we get left behind if we look back too long. Life is about attaching and detaching. It's a spiritual practice. And you got to know when to let something go. And only you know that. We have to care fully and care less. Attached detachment. Be careful, absolutely. But care fully. Don't be careless, but take care of yourself by taking a break from the noise and distractions. And that requires faith, of course. A lot of times we can't look away because we think we've got to be in control. But we have to trust and believe in that powerful spirit that sister from Maryland, Harriet Tubman, believed in. Moses, they called her. And if you've seen that movie that came out a while ago, it wasn't very good. But it told a good story about a little 5-foot woman who had belief and courage in something bigger than her oppressor. And she kept her eyes stayed on freedom when the moment came. She was ready. And in that movie, they portrayed Harriet as sort of a nature whisperer, sort of mystic shaman kind of person. You know, had an injury when she was young, of course, and said it kind of like opened up her third eye, that she became a seer. It's interesting the way they captured that she could listen to the trees and the soil and the water and trust her inner voice. And it told her when to leave plantation, when to come back and get more of her brothers and sisters. She was guided by something that was not fully rational. And she didn't lose one slave, freed more than 100 slaves. And in that movie, Harriet's pastor told her as she was about to leave, she went to the church. That was the first place they told her to stop. Pastor said to her, "Fear is your greatest enemy." Fear from the past stories of all who didn't make it, fear that it won't be any different, fear of death, fear of your own suffering that's yet to come. It's real, it's palpable. We all know it. But it's not all yours to bear. Care less, because you have to take care of yourself. Harriet waited many months before journeying. She prepared, strategized. You know, being in this work, it's all about engaging and disengaging while keeping your foot on the gas all at the same time. And we get tired. And when we get tired, we get angry and bitter. And fear knows to step right in to do its damage in those moments. We start fearing change, the little stuff. All of a sudden we're stuck. We can't move. We're fearing loss and fearing another person, place, or thing. And then all of a sudden the lines of demarcation are drawn. We become judge and jury. See, that's what fear does. It does not reconcile, it reviles. Fear creates hate in the victim and the victimizer. There's nothing redeeming with fear. It just creates more fear. So, you know, there are many problems to talk about today. Issues with policing. You know, why we set the system up the way we did, this militarized law enforcement to keep people of color in their place, so to speak. And why it took white folks so long to begin seeing it. It took a pandemic and 8 minutes and 45 seconds for people to finally realize that we got big problems. We have to look at that fear in the eye. Face those dark nights of our soul when we wonder about our future and our children's future. Just look at it until it leaves us. And you know something that's very interesting right now, because we all are getting a little taste of the prison industrial complex, being confined to our quarters, to our fixed spaces. All the brothers and sisters locked up who probably shouldn't be there. This country imprisons more people than any other country on the planet. So we know a little now what it's like to be confined in fixed space. We know a little bit about how the other feels when they suffer loss. Our compassion has been unleashed, finally. Because that's what I'm talking about, compassion. And it's a beautiful word, compassion. It basically means to suffer with someone. You feel what they feel. Humanity is showing compassion like never before. So it does seem that Carl Jung and Malcolm Gladwell were correct. We are a collective consciousness, and a tipping point has been reached. And Blacks are showing a kind of solidarity not seen since the 1960s. That is compassion. White folks are marching and saying, I'm not raising my kids in a nation built upon domination and fear. That is compassion. Come with passion, strong emotion. With strong emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. At your core, you are energy that became matter. You are energy with motion. And when you move toward love with your energy and motion, you create compassion. With passionate motion, you press onward toward the mark of beloved community. That's what we're talking about, caring fully and knowing when to care less. The collective consciousness has realized that it cannot sustain itself under the current model. Mother Earth is rumbling. She has awakened her children, all of us, calling us to evolve, to grow up, telling us, as I said last time I preached, that the industrial age must give way to the technological age. Gaia is saying that we need to clean up and create sustainable models right now. And that's why patriarchy must become balanced with matriarchy. The earth is rumbling, shaking her children up. The soil is crying out for water, and the people who clap on 2 and 4 all across the globe are demanding to be included in the 1 and 3. It's not to say that 2 and 4 is better, because that would be one tyranny creating another tyranny. What I'm saying is that we need 1, 2, 3, and 4 to complete the measure and make beautiful music. That's the balance. That's caring fully. Sharon Salzberg said compassion allows us to use our own pains and the pain of others as a vehicle for connection. I like that. Connection, that's what we're talking about. This moment in time is teaching us to connect in a different way. It's showing us that white folks really do not fundamentally know or understand people of color or our culture. That's certainly a privilege. Many white folks are waking up, though, and realizing that the system is not working. Hallelujah. We're all tired. We're all getting worn down by the hate rhetoric. And I know many of you can't march or rally due to your stage of life, but you can read another book about systemic racism. You can connect with a person of color in this congregation and learn from them. The BBC have a book read this month, Subtle Acts of Exclusion by Tiffany Jana and Michael Baran. And it says BBC hopes this will be another step in the creation of a new culture within the church, a culture in which it is assumed we all will make mistakes And by addressing them and holding each other accountable, we will take another step toward living into our eighth principle. That we and member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Annapolis and the UUA covenant to affirm and promote journeying through spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably disable racism and other oppressions in ourselves and institutions. It's a lot of work, but that's the goal, creating beloved community. Balancing the yin and the yang. You know, Western culture tells us that black and white, yin and yang, are dueling. They're at odds. That's programming. But Eastern philosophy, Taoism, says that they are complementary. I'm choosing to look at black and white, up and down, north and south, east and west, as complementary forces that don't have to always clash and collide. That's how we're going to recreate our system, by choosing to believe in a different way. So it's really about two becoming one. Merging the polar opposites, which are not opposites. That's an illusion. That's really what the goal is. So I can't make you my enemy, anyone, because that leads to destruction to me. Now, I might be mad at you. I might put our relationship on timeout for a bit, but I must, you must, we must come back toward reconciliation, because that is how we heal ourselves and humanity. When we cannot resolve, we cannot evolve. We get stuck. So I'm not happy with the current administration. I know a lot of people think I'm just Mr. Positive, but I'm frustrated too by this current administration. But I refuse to give my power away through hate. I refuse to give my power away. Don't give your power away to someone or something that is unworthy of it. I want to save my energy and motion for a space and a place that will really appreciate it, that will give me back to me even more energy to do more of this great work. And that's our community. That's what we can do together. Help sustain each other. We are compassionate souls seeking to build a compassionate planet that is aligned with the harmony that is the cosmos. This is a little long today, and I apologize, my last one for a while, so you're not going to hear from me until August. You'll see me, but you won't hear from me, so bear with me, because I got a lot to say, because I need to take this back to our Unitarian Universalist faith. You see, Unitarian Universalism and our congregation, yes, it's still one of the most progressive religions in the country. I know that. But now our faith actually is lagging behind on the race issue. Just over the last month, the world caught up. The younger generations have stepped up, and they are essentially saying, and I'm pretty sure this is true, that they will not step foot in any institution, any religious institution at that is still debating whether they should be moving toward multiculturalism or learning about their white privilege. They will not stay, they will leave. Every UU church that is still struggling with whether they should put a Black Lives Matter sign out, whether they should adopt the eighth principle or be an anti-racist congregation, if they haven't figured out now, it may be too late. Because this new generation is not going to deal with microaggressions and lack of understanding. They want to know what books you've read. They're not going to have the patience, and I get it. They're tired. They don't like the world that we gave to them. And that's what they're supposed to do, build upon what has been created to make it a little better. I love these young leaders. And essentially they're saying that the race train has left the station, and if you're not on board, I'm sorry, but you missed it. So in many ways, what we're experiencing is the ushering out of one generation and the ushering in of another. And it's very cool. The baby boomers, you guys are looking back at yourselves again as teenagers and 20-somethings. Hey, that was me in the 60s, man. It's beautiful. It's crazy out there today, but it's an incredible time to be alive. And I'm so thankful for this moment in history, thankful to be leading you right now. The ministry we have is special. Harriet Tubman, they told her to follow the signs. Follow the signs, Harriet. One of the signs that we're on the right track. I couldn't believe this when I found this out. But the book and the person that we've been promoting all these last several years, White Fragility, is the #1 book in the US. #1. And I am bragging a little bit to say that your minister is in the acknowledgments in that book, in the back. How that will impact our church, I don't know. But what that tells me is that we are on the cutting edge. We are where history needs to go. That's exciting. That will change us in the coming days. But take this as a confirmation that you're in the right place at the right time. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. That's been our history. If you go back and track our history, I got here, became your first Black minister the same time President Obama became the first Black president of the United States. You know, we've had a Latino president that's coming for America. We have our first female president that's coming for America. We called our first settled female minister. It may sound like a small thing, but it's a big thing. Now there are 3 ministers of color, me in Annapolis, Abi in Cedar Lane, and Reverend Rebecca in Rockville. 3 ministers of color leading sizable congregation, unprecedented. So there are aspects of what has happened that are just, that absolutely blow my mind. And then there are other parts where I have to pause and wonder if we've been left behind. But that's life. It's the dance of life. So get in the game, my friends. Stay in the game. Read a new book. We can make of this old world a new world. When justice rolls down like waters, as Dr. King would say, and righteousness like a mighty stream. May it be so. I'd like to invite Pat Flaherty to unmute and to share a few words about Habitat for Humanity. Today's offering will be given to support them. And Pat, are you here?
I'm here.
Go ahead. All right, you're up, Pat.
The look, do I have the first slide? For Humanity affiliate and UUCA have a long and rich history together. We have been a co-sponsor along with several other county faiths in the building of 7 homes for future homeowners since 1998. Co-sponsorship entails pledging and providing monetary support, volunteers, publicity, volunteer lunches, and moral and spiritual support to the new homeowner families. Over the course of the past 22 years, hundreds of UUCA members and friends have participated in some manner with the following individuals and families. 1998, Beth Elliott and family, Severn, Maryland. 2000, Slavko, Zima Karan and their daughter, Annapolis. 2003, the Adrianzen family, Brooklyn, Maryland. 2005, the Cornish and Hatch families, Glen Burnie. 2011, Cassandra Herndon and family, 97 Clay Street, Annapolis. 2017, Shirley Gordon, 55 Clay Street, Annapolis. And 2019, Jessica Parker and her daughter Eden, 123 Clay Street, Annapolis. And what lies ahead for UUCA, Habitat of Chesapeake, and Anne Arundel County Faith Coalition? Habitat is currently in negotiation for 7 townhomes behind Shirley Gordon's 55 Clay Street home in Annapolis for potential rehab. And the Habitat office is also working on the purchase of land in Brooklyn, Maryland, construction of 9 homes and rehab of another. Both of these opportunities should come on within the next year or two. So please give generously. And think whether or not you would like to see UUCA continue its hands-on, rich, and spiritual work with these future Habitat homeowners and their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And as you give, you have several options. You can use if you have an Apple phone, you can use your Apple phone and cut the camera on, put the camera over top of that QR code on the right, and then it will take you to the website. Julie's going to post in the chat if she hasn't already. And so there's different ways to give. You can give directly to Share the Plate. If you're visiting and you just want to make a general donation, I see I need to change that. I have Annapolis Immigration Justice Network on there. I need to change that. I missed that. So please give and enjoy this song by Daniel Lamar.
Just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, yeah. All right. I'm in the right place.
So once again, that slide had some errors on it. This month we're giving to Habitat for Humanity. Thank you for your generosity. We have some announcements. Next Sunday is Reverend Kathleen's last time preaching with us. And I'm excited to say that we arranged for Mr. Solo to bring his ice cream truck and come park in the Foz parking lot. So we're gonna ask you to come by, wave goodbye, maybe make a nice sign and show Reverend Kathleen how much you appreciate her ministry. And then if you want, parents, you can drive from the bottom entrance to the top and then around to the Foz house and get some ice cream, and a bunch of us will be out there waving and saying hi, and none of us will be getting too close. But it'd be good to see a lot of you next week. But that'll happen after the service, which we'll have on Zoom. Some of us will be in the sanctuary for that service, and because we have some special things for Reverend Kathleen. So we look forward to seeing you next Sunday. General Assembly's coming up. It's your best chance to see how things happen at a larger level. 4, 5, or 6,000 people. Who knows how many will be there this year? And it's only $150. If you're interested, you can go to uua.org/GA, or you can contact me or Reverend Kathleen. There's the book read. I encourage all of you to get this book, Subtle Acts of Exclusion, and to begin reading it. And I'm sure BBC will be having several opportunities for you to discuss. Heather loves baseball, and she is starting a small group ministry for all ages. So she wants you to check in the know, because that's where the details are. But if you love baseball, please join Heather. Joshua.
Good morning. I just want to give a warm welcome to all of our newcomers, whether you're here for the first time, second time, 19th time. We are so glad you're here. And scanning the chat, I do see some new names and some new faces. So I'm just excited to see that you're joining us on this platform in our virtual worship space. Julie Berman has posted our visitor card in the chat, so you can just click the link there and fill out your name and email, and we can add you to our newsletter. It's not spam. We just let you know about upcoming events, worship services, and all the things that are happening here at UUCA. The next slide. And we have our newcomers classes. This is our pathway for newcomers and people who are interested in learning more about the church or interested in joining the church. We are doing our Inquire series, and today is the campus tour, and it will be a virtual tour. We want to thank you, Jack Anderson, for the wonderful video from a few months ago during our congregational meeting. It is also the video we'll be using for our tour. And so get some coffee, get some tea, and we'll start at 11:15 a.m. If you plan to be in the Inquire series, please state in the chat or raise your hand so Julie Berman can write your name down. And so that way, when we move to breakout rooms, we can make sure that you get moved to the correct breakout room. The breakout room number 1 will be for the Inquirers classes. And I think there's one more slide we have. And if you're not going to be in the Inquirers class, we are doing our virtual coffee hour after service. We are seeking to stay in fellowship and in connection with each other by having these virtual coffee hour. And I've personally found that in some ways, it's nice to do this virtually because we can all sit here and with intention and really get to know each other. And the question we're going to talk about, if you please, is if you would like, what conversations are you having regarding Black Lives Matter and the recent protest? So feel free to introduce yourselves, get to know each other a little bit, and then kind of talk about the recent revolution uprisings that are taking place at this moment. So please stick around and let's have a good time in community. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Our final hymn, sung by our choir, hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Bob Ertman will share our closing words. You have to unmute yourself, Bob.
Compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. And now we can virtually greet our virtual neighbors.
Hey,
Hi, everyone.
Morning.
hey, hello.
Hey,
Everybody.
Everybody.
Don't forget next Sunday. Really important.
Hi, everybody.
Ice cream.
Hi, everyone.
Everybody.
Take care. How you doing, Louise?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Great. Thanks.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you too.
Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Good
Hey, Karen.
Trish. Wonderful sermon, John.
Hi, Trish.
It was beautiful.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I was talking to.
Julie says hi to you.
So good to see everyone.
Great. That's what it is. It's great.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Lois. Good to see you.
Josh, we're so sorry about your grandmother.
Oh, thank you.
This is Ann. Am I going to group 1 inquiries?
Yes, Anne. You
Okay.
are noted.
Okay.
Unable to unmute.
I was muted before.
Oh,
Stacy.
The child. Is that mom with the child or the child with the child?
Hi.
Hello. Says Susie Oaks at baptism.
James.
is everyone able to unmute themselves now?
I think so.
Okay.
Thanks, Reverend John.
Great service today, Reverend John. Thank you.
Thanks, Reverend John.
Absolutely was.
Thank you.
Great service.
Absolutely. Very good service.
Beautiful service.
We needed it.
Yes, we did.
We do. Really excellent.
All right. Who's going to breakout room?
Very nice.
Stay well, folks.
Bye. Have a great week.
Go.
Bye.
Gotten ready to
Hey,
go.
Karen, how are you feeling today?
Morning. Love you, John. Perfect, John.
You can hang out and break out and have a conversation. We're about to do that.
You're going to break up.
Front yard.
Yeah, good. All right, all we're
Hi, Deb. How you doing?
opening
How
breakout.
are you?
Great.
Yes, you are.
Here we go. Breakouts we go.
Here we go. Bye.
Hello, all. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I will probably be jumping back to the main room to help people get settled. But I see Julie is in here, Tracy, John. It's so good to see all of you, and I'll let you.
Lika, what's this space here? What's this space right here?
I think
this is sort of the hallway. So anyone here needs to accept their invitation to go to a breakout room or not accept. And if you can't see it on your screen, maybe minimize, and then you might see the pop-up that invited you.
I thought it had put me in a breakout room, so
My-
I'll just be staying here.
I don't want to be recording this. I want it to stop.